Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is the April 27th, 2017 meeting of the East Fishkill Town Board. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Really only have one announcement tonight. Last week, the town engineer and I had a conference call with the EPA on the Hopewell Precision Superfund water line. At this moment, all of the easements and permits have been received. EPA has them, and bids should be going out soon, and we're looking for construction to begin in the autumn. And I believe, Scott, they said that they actually got extra funding, so I think they're up to $20 million for this first phase. Is that correct?
Correct.
Something like that, right?
So they're going to do the pump station at Old Farm Road and the transmission main up to the tank, including the tank up off Dogwood.
Very good. So there's very good news. And I saw the last bit of information they went out today
Yes.
was on the road opening permit, so we're good to go.
Yes.
Very good. So we'll be looking forward to that project. It's been a long time coming. That's all for the announcements tonight. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Councilperson Cassidy, who's absent. Councilperson D'Alessandro.
Present.
Councilperson Franco.
Present.
Councilperson Marinaro.
Present.
Supervisor Hickman.
Present. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next on the agenda is receive and file. Do we have anything under receive and file for this evening?
No.
No? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I misapproved the minutes. Well, at least we took care of that one. The board has been presented minutes of the February 23rd, 2017, and the March 23rd, 2017 minutes of the East Fishkill Town Board. Have you received, Madam Clerk, any changes, modifications, or amendments?
No, I did not.
You have not. That being the case, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the February 23rd and March 23rd, 2017 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. And we've already done receiving files, so we're good there. Public comments on agenda items only. Is there anybody in the audience like to speak on anything on the agenda?
Good evening. I'd like to ask regarding resolution number 1, I think it is. Yeah. I don't see anything on here for mowing for Hillside Lake.
I'm sorry, which one is that?
Number 1.
Number 1, award lawn mowing bids? What would you like to ask?
I don't see anything on the resolution for who's mowing or any bidding on Hillside Lake.
Well, Hillside Lake is done in-house. I believe a few years ago, we subbed that out, and I believe the union challenged us on that.
No, sir. No, I didn't challenge
me?
you on it. I did not challenge you on it. At the
No,
time,
I'm just
not
saying that the union had challenged it.
I'm sorry,
So we
I'm
ended up
sorry.
keeping
I
it
didn't
in-house.
Okay, I
So
didn't hear
our
you correctly.
guys do it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anybody else like to make any comments on agenda items? Okay, there being none, move to public hearings. The first public hearing is open, adjourned public hearing on amending the sign law. Everybody's got a copy of the amendment, proposed amendment, I do believe. Everybody got one? Councilman Marinaro got one?
Yeah, John, before we
just let
open
me-
the public hearing, I mean, I would like to, at this time, propose to remove this from public record at this time. We still need to address some of the issues on this sign.
All right, would you let me,
Ordinance.
if you let me proceed for a minute, and then we can get into, and I do feel it is imperative, I do think it's very important to open the public hearing, and we certainly will take your concerns as part of the record, but I would like to just give a little background here on our sign ordinance. We're in the midst of redoing our sign ordinance. We started it back, I believe, oh my goodness, probably last September, October, and one wouldn't think a sign ordinance is a complicated thing, but Nothing could be truer. It is a very complicated thing. Sign ordinance engenders a lot of emotion on from the business community, from the town people, from the town, and we're trying to find a balance to that. But one of the things that we have found is in the present sign law, if it doesn't fit the letter of the law, there is no avenue for any variance. You cannot go to somebody and appeal it. So unfortunately, the sign law as it stands is the sign law. There's no mechanism to say, well, gee, it's close to that, or this is why I'm doing that. So what we're doing tonight, what I would like to do tonight, why I think this is imperative, we're not going to be getting back to this sign law probably till June, July, to be honest with you, because there's a lot of details to be worked out. But in the meantime, as I said at the last town board meeting, one of the things we need to do is establish a board of appeals for the existing sign law. Otherwise, there's, like I said, there's no room for appeal. That's why I think it's very important that we consider this evening. Just to give a place for relief from the sign ordinance as it stands. So that's why it's here, that's why I had it on for last month, and I feel very strongly that we need to at least offer that to the public, to the business people, and to our public. So I would just like to, right now, and taking the councilman's concerns, I would still like to open the public hearing. I think it's very important at least have a public dialogue on this. So with that being said, do I have a motion to open the public hearing on the adjourned public hearing on amending the sign law?
So
Excuse
moved.
me. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'm against this, John.
Motion carried. And that is noted for the record.
Thank you.
All right, as I said, when you look at this local law, we're not doing the entire sign law. When we do the entire sign law, it's going to be much bigger than this. This is just a page and a half. Section 1 obviously is the legal intent, which just says the town board will from time to time amend and modify this chapter of known as the sign law so as to keep it up to date and streamline the process. Section 2 is permit authority. It's designated permitting authority shall be an officer designated by the supervisor, and it's either the zoning administrator or the town planner who have actually been de facto filling that role anyway. With respect to any site plan before the planning board may grant sign approvals. When the matters for the Architectural Review Council for approval, part of that approval may include the sign permit. Prohibited signs, this is one that I would just like to point out, another one that needs to be done. It is section 153-5F is repealed, and in its place the following is adopted. Now, if you look at 153-5F, it's under prohibited signs, and it prohibits, find it right here, that was F, signs with flashing, blinking, intermittent, or moving lights, or any artificial light which is not maintained stationary by constant in intensity and color at all times when in use, except signs displaying time or temperature. I do believe, and I'll ask the attorney, does this mean that the new LED type of lights are prohibited under the old law?
Under the old law, yes.
Yes. So now we're seeing a lot of these come up. So this is really the only change to the sign law, except for providing the board for relief. This is the only part of the sign law which is going to change, and this would be repealed, and in its place, provided signs with flashing, blinking, or moving lights shall be prohibited. So that makes it a lot easier, so the LED lights that we see that are really becoming a new thing in the town and all over the place would be legal. So just kind of just cleaning that up. And that's section 3, and then section 4 is the sign review board. Hereby created a sign review board to consist of 3 members, 1 designated by the Architectural Review Council. 2 members will be designated by the town board. Members shall serve until a successor is chosen. Referral, whenever the permit authority deems it appropriate, a sign application will be referred to the sign review board for consideration. And I just think that is very important because we don't have that now. Meetings, the sign review board shall meet as necessary in compliance with the open meetings law. Minutes shall be taken. Authority, the sign review board may authorize the issuance of a sign permit. And then the section E goes into variances. authorized to allow signs greater than in excess of provisions of this law, never greater than 100%, because we didn't want to give a sign review board carte blanche. We wanted to keep them in some kind of regulation, so they can never allow a sign greater than 100% more than the dimensional limits therein. And they have to consider the following: existing plazas and buildings, after considering other signs in the plaza, shapes and locations, shapes and style of the structure, whether there's frontage on one or more public road, and other architectural, terrain, and unique circumstances or issues pertaining to a particular property. And what this does is gives the variance board or the site appeals board the opportunity to go out and look at a plaza, say, okay, this doesn't fit what all the other plazas are, and this is a unique feature, so we could allow this sign, or we could allow the sign to be bigger. And then it just goes into ratification of effective date, but that really is what we're considering this evening. And again, I just feel that it's very important that we do have a sign review board to allow some flexibility in the signs that we're approving. So that's all I've got to say, and I'd just like to ask the board for their thoughts.
For the variances, and they can't grant a variance greater than 100% of the dimensions.
Yeah.
After that, it will go to the zoning board?
No, there is no other appeal after this.
That's it?
Yep, that's it.
So if there was a special circumstance where a business went somewhere, you know, there's special instances all the time where the business would need a larger sign, a sign larger than 100% of what it is now, what would they do? They're out of luck?
Excuse me, I think they would be out of luck, although I would point out, I don't think that I think that up to 100% increase would be reasonable, I would think.
Right.
Because I know our planners looked at this, he's spoken with the chairman of our ARB, and I don't know if the ARB weighed on it or just the chairman. I think this would suffice in most circumstances, but again, when you look at the legislative intent, the town board will from time to time amend and modify this chapter so as to keep it up to date.
Okay.
So if it turned out, and it's like zoning, you know, when you get a lot of variances for sheds,
And we change it, right?
and you need to change, it's a signal you need to change your law. And I think it'd be pretty much the same with this one, where, okay, we're getting a lot of these. 100% we think will suffice for pretty much everything, but obviously if it turns out to
Not
be a
everything,
problem,
right.
you know, we would consider that.
Okay, because I do think that this is very important. We are having a lot of problems with the signs. I don't know what the councilman is going to suggest, but I'd suggest if we do go forward with this tonight, that I spoke with a member of the ARB board previously, and, you know, no law is perfect. So after 6 months or so, after the law is implemented, maybe we can have another review committee put. Maybe the councilman wants to be part of that.
Good
Made
point.
up of some members of the community, business community,
Yep.
members of our planning board, the planner, and we could change it, make modifications to the law.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know if that's
If I may, the only reason that I wanted this resolution pulled tonight, I mean, we could talk about it. We were planning on voting on changing some zone ordinance a few months back, and then we decided to talk about it and see if we could come up with a comprehensive sign ordinance and address some of the main issues. There's been discussion, but before this was presented tonight, I thought that our plan was to get together with some of the community business people and listen to their concern to what we were intending to put together. So now tonight, we have this resolution. I don't see any business people in here tonight to even address any of the concerns, but some of the items that they were put previously in the previous resolutions are in the same resolution tonight. And I personally, as a businessman and as a council person, I have some issues with the way this resolution is being presented to the town board. For instance, Section 2, A, a permit issuing authority shall be an official designated by the town supervisor. Well, you know.
You can make a town board if you'd rather. I have no problem with
well,
that.
the-
We can
the-
vote on that.
Well, the thing is that the whole board supersedes some of these local town laws. And I think that the town supervisor is getting additional power.
No, but then why don't we just change it right now? I have no
But
problem with
this
that. We
is
just do
why,
the town
this
board.
is why, instead of having a discussion about this,
No, that's why we're
which-
talking about it now.
well, I'd rather pull this out.
Hmm?
We continue discussing like we were, because I spoke to the planner and asked if this was going through tonight, and some people were unaware that this resolution was supposed to be part of our meeting tonight. So my take was that we still had a discussion going on.
Well, we do. As I said, the town, to do the comprehensive sign ordinance is going to take some months, which will include, as we had discussed, having the business community in. I simply would like a way to have relief under the existing sign ordinance until we adopt the new sign ordinance. And even after we adopt the new sign ordinance, I still think to have the relief board is a important thing to do. So I understand what you're saying. I've changed this to town board to adopt, to appoint either the zoning administrator or town planner. But this was in your mailbox before the last meeting.
I
So you
understand.
shouldn't have been surprised, because that was a month ago, and now it's here, we've had it for a while.
Well,
Yeah.
we got this
It's
work,
just-
John, we got it Monday or Tuesday.
No, but this was in your mailbox a month ago. So you've had this law, but this is not the comprehensive law. This is just a law that I would like to have to give relief until we do it.
Right, and my concern is, why can't we work on something? I mean, we have some business people on the board that we will work on it once and do it right, and then if in case there is a need to go back, it seems like we're doing a chopped-up job. Let's do this now and then go back and fix it later, which I think it was the same thing that we did when we put the sign ordinance in the first place. It was put together, then issues came up, now we're trying to fix those issues, and it seems like we are doing a chopped-up job rather than doing it right and
Well,
doing it
can-
once. I mean,
You're missing the
Wait,
point.
no, if I could respond, Councilman, I think maybe you're missing the point that when we had the workshop and we discussed it with the planner, we're not changing the meat and potatoes of the original sign law. We're just going to add an amendment saying that we're going to have a review board, because a lot of applications came in, there was a lot of problems, and the planner was having a lot of difficulties. So she couldn't make the changes that were required to help the business owners. And she called me, and I had a lot of issues also, because, you know, I'm trying to push the business owners to get whatever they need to do business. So that's when we discussed at the workshop, maybe we can have a review board, and then we can get together and get a board together to change the laws on the meat and potatoes of the law.
if I remember correctly, Councilman, at the time, we discussed putting together what we used to call an appeal board.
Appeal board,
Because
right.
it was not a review board, now it's a review board.
It's a re-
We called an appeal board for people that had an issue with signs, they couldn't get the approval, to go to the appeal board. Again, I don't know who put this resolution together, but a lot of the terms have been changed. Some of the players are changed. I personally think that tonight, this should be, I really don't see why we need to rush into this. It's not, that is an emergency. I don't see a
there
lot of
is.
business people waiting out there at the door
Well,
to
that's
get
why
their
I-
signs approval on.
I think, well, if you ask the planner, there are a lot of businesses asking for approval on signs and asking for changes that are in the law that they don't want. So she doesn't have the flexibility to grant those changes for them. So that's why we said maybe we can have an appeal or a review board. And that's why the Architectural Review Board's been reviewing this for months and months now. So, I mean, I don't see how the businesses can get relief if we don't put some sort of mechanism in there now so they can move forward, because it is springtime. Business is going to get busier now, and there's going to be more and more sign applications. So, I mean, I don't think we have the time to give the businesses what they need to do the whole law over now.
And I gotta say, like you said before, you never get a law correct ever. You know, no one law is going to fit everything. You're always going to have the need for a review board to provide relief or some kind of relief from a sign application. So you're going to need this anyway. So, I mean, I guess you've seen it. I just think this is something we need to do for the business community. If we're going to wait until we adopt the sign law, which is going to be sometime probably in July, a lot of people out there are going to be impacted. This is something that gives them relief. Anybody in the audience like to speak on this local law to amend the sign ordinance, to provide a board of relief, a board of appeals, if you will? And I did want to just make the one change, which would allow the LED lights, the LED lit signs that we see now, to be legal. Anybody in the audience like to speak to that? Okay, there being none, any more discussion on the board?
I'm all for the review board. I think that's very important.
I think it's the
as
thing to
Councilman
do.
was saying.
There are
And
no-
then we'll get to the meat and potatoes of this, you said in July.
Oh, absolutely. And not to say that we aren't just really busy with a lot of different projects going on with the planner. So it's at least this provides relief in the meantime.
So, John, Section 3, Paragraph F, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't that already part of the existing law?
That was the existing law. Tom, would you explain to the councilman about 153-5F and why it's being repealed and replaced?
What, the current law wouldn't allow any illuminated signs like the ones that are on municipal properties, the library district, the firehouses, they're the LED lights. So that what's proposed here is to enable people to have those signs that are lit, but they couldn't be flashing, blinking, or the moving strips. They can change, so they can be the electric LED lights like the fire district headquarters has, that there's a message for a few minutes and then it changes. That's not as distracting to a driver as one that has the band going around the bottom, which would still be prohibited. So that's the difference in the two versions. And I might also say the reason why the current law only allows the sign permit to be issued by the zoning administrator, and the only reason the reference to the town supervisors is he's the supervisor position is the full-time position, chief administrator. It would give flexibility in the administration of things to expand it, that certain things would be done by the planner and certain things by the zoning administrator, because we only have a part-time zoning administrator and a part-time planner, so there has to be. And that was the only thought involved about saying the town supervisor.
And to that, why don't we just change, we should just change that, the permit issuing authority shall be an official designated by the town board and shall be both the deputy, the zoning administrator and the town planner. So that way they can decide amongst themselves, if that's okay. Because our planner is a part-time planner and our zoning administrator is a part-time zoning administrator. So why don't we do that?
Now, Tom, the initial paragraph, Section 1, what it says the town board desires to grant greater latitude to the administrative officials.
Well, right now, what we're faced with, as the supervisor said, is that if you're a new store coming into a plaza, the sign laws are currently very fixed as to what your dimensions for your sign would be. So the problem that we've encountered here at the town hall with people coming in to get permits for signs is that everyone else in the plaza could have a little larger sign, a little different shape, et cetera. So the thought of having the review board would be that the planner or a zoning administrator initially meets with the property owner who wants to get the sign. If it seems to be, and if you look at the standards that are in place for the variances, it says they have to consider existing plazas and buildings and the other signs within the plaza. So that might allow them to give a bigger sign because it will still look uniform. The shape and style of the structure, so if it's a unique A-frame, et cetera, different size sign or configuration might be appropriate. A big problem we always encounter here is if the property has frontage on more than one public road. And, you know, how do you allocate the sign? It may be appropriate to have two signs of the same size as opposed to one big sign, one little sign, that would be here, and then the terrain and other architectural circumstances. These four things are the four most common problems that the planner and zoning administrator have encountered, and so that's why it was thought that if we at least introduce the review board, and the reason why it's called a review board as opposed to, it's just thought that if you call it an appeals board, it's going to confuse people with the zoning board of appeals, as opposed to a sign review board and the architectural review board. So that was the only thought and the difference in the name. They have the authority to, as the supervisor said, allow signs bigger, up to 100% of what's in the ordinance. And that's what this would do. until-
And all of these issues, I know that we had discussed at our meetings, and we were gonna continue to address that, again,
In
to
the
come
major
up.
Correct,
with a
absolutely, but the
correct
thought
law
was
to
by
give.
doing this, you give instant relief to some people who are, upset that they can't get the signs that they think are appropriate for their business.
What is
while
the
we
number
work-
of people coming up usually right now that need new signs, Nick?
Well, signs come and go, depends
And,
on
but
it.
Nick
But we
said
had
that
at
there
one
is a
point,
number
we
of
had-
people. How many people do we usually have right now?
Yeah, at one point, I think we had 3 sign applications. That was about a month or two ago, but they were very difficult. They didn't fit what was allowed, so then the planner had to go back and say, look, this is not allowed. Would you mind changing to this? And they weren't happy, but they did it. I think one of them actually just pulled the sign application. So, we don't get like 50 sign applications a month, but they come and go in spurts, and the planner did not have any authority to make any changes. So the applicant had to make the changes, and some of them weren't happy, but they did. So,
And
this
there
is
are
what
other
we're doing.
things, there are other things that have to be addressed, obviously. Like, for instance, Unity Plaza, when it was built,
Wow.
there weren't any modifications to the sign law that would have engendered, the...
Larger sign with the-
pole with all the signs on it
yeah.
in a uniform fashion. So the planner wants to bring a suggestion about that. We're also dealing now with the redevelopment of the Global Foundry site in the Dome, which are going to require different size signs and location and sharing signs.
Yeah.
So all that has to come to the town board, and I know she's working on that to bring it to you. But this proposal was thought to give some immediate relief to the small business owners in the town who over the last few months haven't been able to really
Get the
get
sign they
something
want.
that they feel is necessary.
Any further discussion on this sign amendment that's before us? You're more than welcome, anytime anybody has any questions about this during the week, we stop in and ask, and the planner's here Wednesdays and Fridays too, if you have to discuss it with her. Any other discussion? There being none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. The public hearing is now closed. Do I have a motion to adopt the negative declaration?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I will abstain, John.
And one abstention. Negative deck has been declared, has been adopted. Do I have a motion to amend the current law to establish an appeals board and the other changes to the existing sign law as stated? Do I have a motion to amend local law 6 of 2011 as this stands before us?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
One abstention?
Another abstention. Okay. The amended law passes. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is resolutions. Councilman Franco, would you read the awarding resolutions for the lawn mowing service, please?
Whereas the town is responsible for mowing of certain cemeteries within the town that have been previously abandoned by their owners, and whereas the town also is responsible for providing mowing services on behalf of special districts within the town and to charge back those districts with the cost thereof.
And if I may just, that's Loma Law, actually, is the only special park district that is served by the contractor.
Whereas the town clerk duly advertised for the receipt of bids with respect to providing mowing services within the town, and whereas those bids have been received, and it is the desire of the town board to consider the award thereof. Now therefore be it resolved that the bidder, Beech Tree Holdings LLC, be and hereby is awarded the mowing bids for the Loma Park District, and the town cemeteries. And be it further resolved that the supervisor be and hereby is authorized to execute these bid documents, and the town clerk shall notify the bidder as to the outcome of the bid.
Thank you, Councilman. Everybody's got a copy of the bids. Beech Tree was the sole bidder. Base bid for the mowing services are $2,450, and spring cleanup would be $850. Do I have a motion to award the bids for lawn mowing service to Beech Tree?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Councilman Marinaro, would you read the resolution granting concession facility use privileges?
Where some various recreational sites owned and operated by the town, there are concession facilities, and whereas the town board has reviewed requests for proposal for various vendors to utilize the concession facility on these sites to serve the users of the facilities over the summer months, and whereas the town board has reviewed the references, the menus, and other issues pertaining to the vendors, and whereas it is the desire of the town board to authorize the use of the concessions. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Oakville Recreation Area Concession Facility may be utilized from April 30th, 2017 through October 1st, 2017 by these fiscal provisions. Upon payment to the town of the sum of $1,000, and upon agreement of the vendor to be open during all activities and events at the site as set forth in the annexed proposal, and be it further resolved that all of the vendors shall sign a letter of agreement as prepared by the town attorney, and to provide to the town attorney for approval certificate of insurance prior to entering upon the use of the concession facilities.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to grant concession facility use privileges to Smokehouse and Deli, which I believe was the sole bidder this year?
So moved?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item on the agenda, authorized brush drop-off. Actually, just a little explanation. We had actually awarded the bid to Lime Kiln Road LLC last year for brush drop-off program. And be honest with you, it works out very well. I asked the owner of Lime Kiln Road LLC if they would continue doing it for us again, because the Lime Kiln facility is pretty much familiar to everybody, and if they would do it for the same price as they did last year. They did indicate that they would do that. Next year, we'll go out to bid again, but he did say he would hold it for one more year. So whereas the town of East Fishkill is contracted with Lime Kiln Road LLC for the 2016 brush drop-off, and Lime Kiln Road LLC has agreed to the same price of $22,362 for the 2017 brush drop-off program. Now therefore be resolved that Lime Kiln Road LLC being hereby is approved to hold the 2017 brush drop-off. Do I have a motion to authorize brush drop-off, to award the brush, to authorize the extension of the brush drop-off contract?
So moved?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And be it further resolved, brush drop-off will run from June 1st until June 30th and October 4th until October 28th. Brush drop-off is open from Wednesdays to Fridays. I don't have the times of day, but full days, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturday, half a day. So we will be opening that up soon. Councilman D'Alessandro, would you read resolution number 4, please?
Yeah, authorize DOT maintenance of sidewalks and drainage facilities, whereas the New York State Department of Transportation proposes the construction of sidewalks and drainage facilities as part of the department's project for intersection improvements on Route 376 at Robinson Lane and Lake Walton Road in the town of East Fishkill, Dutchess County. And the state will include as part of the construction, reconstruction, or improvements of the above-mentioned project, the construction of sidewalks and drainage facilities pursuant to Section 10, subsection 22, Section 46, or Section 349-C of the New York Highway Law, as shown on the contract plans related to the project, and the service life of the relocated and/or replaced utilities has not been extended. And whereas the state of New York is presently preparing contract plans for the construction, reconstruction, or improvement of the above-mentioned work, as shown on the contract plans related to the project. Now therefore be resolved that the town of East Fishkill approve the construction of such sidewalks and drainage facilities and the above-mentioned work performed on the project and shown on the contract plans relating to the project, and that the town of East Fishkill will maintain or cause to be maintained the sidewalks and drainage facilities performed as above stated and as shown on the contract plans, including the control of snow and ice. Be it further resolved that the clerk of this board is hereby directed to transmit 5 certified copies of the foregoing resolution to the New York State Department of Transportation.
Thank you, Councilman. This is the long-awaited Robinson Lane, Lake Walton, Route 376 turning lanes to address the congestion in that area. New York State will come in and do the work. I've spoken with our highway superintendent, who's indicated agreement to do all the maintenance of the storm drains or any storm drainage facilities on town property in that area. And as far as the sidewalks, we will be working together to put out a sidewalk bid package, and I would like to get the sidewalk bid package out sometime this summer, say June, July, so we know we have a bidder, we have people, we have a contractor that will maintain these sidewalks, as well as other sidewalks in the town. So, with that, do I have a motion to authorize DOT maintenance of sidewalks, to authorize our maintenance of the DOT sidewalks and drainage facilities?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor
John,
say
I have
aye.
a question.
Sure.
Tom, do I have to recuse myself? I have a business alongside over there.
On, no,
I'm voting on this.
that wouldn't be a significant enough issue. Your disclosure would be fine.
So should I?
Disclosure that your business is in that area, I believe, is sufficient to let the
Okay.
community know.
Very good.
This is a town-wide, no town funds are expended, so,
So I could vote on this, right?
so.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we have a motion. Do we have a motion and a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Say when they're going to start this work?
I believe they're going to be starting this summer.
No roundabout, though.
No roundabout, just turning lanes. They looked at a roundabout. But I did see the surveyors out today. If you go down Robinson Lane to where Summerlin Plaza is, they're surveying that corner out. That's going to be part of the property that they're taking. So, no roundabouts, but they will have turning lanes. And boy, that is a tough intersection, a tough area to get through in the afternoon around 5 o'clock. Resolution number 5, authorizing a partial refund of zoning board application fee, whereas an application was made for special permit by William J. Florence, Jr. Esquire, on behalf of Russell Palmer, to the zoning board with respect to Appeal 3813, whereas an application fee was paid to the zoning board, and whereas the applicant has withdrawn the application, whereas the clerk to the zoning board recommended that a partial refund be approved, and the request is that the clerk of the zoning board is authorized to refund $145, and the application fee was $150. So, but I don't believe that there's too much review of this application. So, with that being said, do I have a motion to authorize partial refund of a zoning board application fee?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried, sorry. Councilman Franco, would you read the resolution authorizing the bathroom renovation at the Hopewell Rec Facility?
Whereas the Recreation Department has discussed with the town supervisor and town engineer the need for repairs at the Route 52 Recreation Complex bathrooms. And whereas the Recreation Advisory Board has requested proposals for the renovation of the bathrooms at the Route 52 Recreation Complex. Whereas the Recreation Advisory Board has received 2 quotes and is requesting the town board to authorize the lowest quote. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board does hereby authorize Chester Betts, who provided the lowest quote to renovate the restroom facility at the Route 52 Recreation Complex. And be it further resolved that Chester Betts will supply the town with all insurance documentation that is required prior to work and will be paid after final approval by the town engineer.
Thank you very much. As we discussed this at the workshop, this is a needed project, so I appreciate the board's working with us on this. Do I have a motion to authorize bathroom renovation at the Hopewell Recreation Facility on Route 52?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
I'd like to just quickly thank the Rec Advisory Board. They've done a great job. This issue has been around for a while, and they tackled it, and I'm glad we're going to get something done there. The repairs are modest, but it's definitely needed. So thank you to the Rec Advisory Board.
Resolution 7 is to authorize the animal control class for the dog warden. Lieutenant, actually, this actually comes from, I do believe, New York State, who comes on and they review our dog facility. And I believe that the inspector from New York State told Lieutenant Orsino that she thought it was a good idea for Animal Control Officer Matthew Chan to attend this conference. Lieutenant Orsino has sent a request to the town board asking for the town's dog warden, Matthew Chan, to attend the 8th Annual DCO-ACO Conference in Guilderland, New York, to be held May 9th through May 10th, 2017. Now therefore be it further resolved, details of such conference is attached here too, and the expenses of the town will be for tuition and lodging. Be it further resolved that Matthew Chan is hereby authorized to attend this conference. And we all have, I believe it is, cost of training is $50 to be paid to the town of Guilderland for breakfast and lunch for both days, and $115 for the night at the Hampton Inn located in Albany. Matthew Lieutenant Orsino has recommended this for our animal control officer. Do I have a motion to authorize dog warden to attend the conference?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 So Mr.
Opposed?
Chang is our dog warden?
He is our animal control officer, yep.
Okay.
All opposed? There being none, motion passed. Thank you. Councilman Marinaro, would you read the next resolution, please?
Acknowledge seasonal recreation workers for the Highway Department and authorize Red Wing and camp seasonal workers. Whereas the Highway Superintendent has interviewed and hired Ryan Araniva as a full-time seasonal laborer for the Highway Department and submitted a memo, and whereas the Director of Recreation has submitted to the Town Board a list of names of the employees for the summer program and the amounts of their salaries to be paid, and now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board does hereby acknowledge the hiring of Ryan Araniva as a full-time seasonal laborer in the Highway Department. Ryan Araniva started April 17, 2017, and will be paid $11 per hour. Be it further resolved that Ryan started on April 17, 2017, and that upon completion of these tasks, it will be removed from payroll. Whereas the Director of Recreation has submitted to the Town Board a list of the names of the employees for the summer program and the amounts of their salary to be paid. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Controller be and hereby is authorized to place on town payroll as temporary summer employees the seasonal recreation camp employees and Red Wing employees as set forth on the attached list. And be it further resolved that upon completion of their tasks, that the temporary summer employees and the full-time seasonal laborers should be removed from the payroll unless further ordered by the Town Board.
Thank you. The resolution we have recognizes the seasonal hire by the Highway Department and also the list of Red Wing lifeguards and the camp counselors that will be hiring for the upcoming season. Do I have a motion to acknowledge a seasonal recreational worker for Highway and authorize the Red Wing and camp seasonal worker hirings?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Councilman D'Alessandro, would you read the next resolution, please?
Approving a change order for John J. Sewer Project. Whereas the town board previously has awarded contracts for the construction of the John J. Sewer Project, and the town engineer has recommended a change order to be approved, and the town engineer's memo is attached here too. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board does hereby approve the change order recommended by the town engineer in the letter attached here too.
Thank you, Councilman. And the change order, contractors encountered additional work as described below, rock drilling, utilizing an alternate route because after 3 years of working with Con Ed to get an easement. We just figured we're never going to get an easement from Con Ed. So we had to go a different route down Route 52, as I think anybody going down Route 52, down by John Jay High School and by the railroad there, when you saw the pipeline coming up, that was our sewer line that will be providing sewer services to the West Complex, to the, I would say, the Sports Dome, to John Jay High School, and the connection to the Global Foundries sewer plant. And we had to do additional test pits for that. We're actually increasing the wet well to increase pump station capacity because it's cheaper to do it now than if we have to come back and do it in the happy event that there's more businesses that want to tie in. And clearing and traffic signage. So the total cost of these change orders is $123,296. So I think I agree with the engineer when he says it's better to do it now. And the only unfortunate thing was 3 years of trying to get a easement from Con Ed was not the best way to go. So, that being said, do I have a motion to approve the change orders for John Jay Sewer Project as proposed by the town engineer?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Resolution 10 is to declare certain property to be surplus, whereas the town chief has provided to the town board a listing of vehicles which he deems to be of no further use to the town, and thus should be considered surplus, whereas there's a 2004 Ford Crown Victoria and a 1998 Ford Rescue that the chief has requested be declared surplus material and sold. Town board has a list and hopefully concurs. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the two vehicles hereby are declared to be surplus and is to be disposed by participating in an auction process held by Absolute Auctions and Realty without cost to the town, that the sale of said vehicles shall be further approved by the town board, and we have the memo from the Chief of Police, Kevin D. Keefe. Do I have a motion to declare these two police vehicles as surplus?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Councilman D'Alessandro, would you read the final resolution for the night?
Set a public hearing to miscellaneous zoning amendments, whereas the town planner has recommended a number of minor modifications to the zoning law to clarify certain provisions of the code to improve efficiency, support economic development, reduce the need for certain area variances, and to correct minor errors in the zoning. And it is the desire of the town board to hear comments of the public with respect to the proposal, and now therefore be it resolved that the town board does hereby set a public hearing for June 22nd, 2017 at 7 p.m. at the beginning of their regular scheduled town board meeting to hear public comments on the proposal by the town board to amend the zoning, and be it further resolved that the town clerk be and hereby is authorized and directed to advertise and publish appropriate notices with respect hereto.
Thank you, Councilman. As with the sign law, the town planner's been working on this for quite a while. She will provide us a copy, list of the proposed miscellaneous zoning amendments, and there will be discussion. She will be at our next workshop meeting to discuss the list. She'll have that to the town board prior to that meeting. So, but I would like to move forward and set the public hearing. We'll be discussing it at the workshop, though, at the next town board workshop. So with that, do I have a motion to set a public hearing for miscellaneous zoning amendments for June 22nd, 2017 at 7 p.m.?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Public hearing is now set. Thank you. That's it for the resolutions this evening. Budget transfers, the comptroller?
No.
We have no budget transfers for this evening. Now it's time to take public comments on general town issues. We will now be taking public comments on general town issues. Comments will be taken, and as some issues take time for review, consideration, and research, responses from the board may be given at this time or at another meeting. The public always has the ability to come meet with any member of the town board to discuss any town issues. So does anybody like to make comments on any general town issues? Yes, sir, just step right up to the podium.
Thank you very much. My name's Thomas O'Hare. I've been a resident of this town since 1973. In fact, it was June 6th when I moved in. I came here tonight with one purpose, to thank all of you for all the work you do. I don't always agree with you, but I know your heart's in the right place. But I believe government, less government is more. It's the best, okay? We live in the best town in the whole state. It's a beautiful place. The only thing I would like to see corrected because I tape these things at home, and then when I can, I listen or watch them. And there was an issue about term limits and stuff like that. Anybody on that board that's not doing their job, their term limits will happen real quick, because the electorate will get rid of them. So you don't need term limits. Don't fix it if it's not broken. Very simple. And I thank you again.
Thank you very much, we appreciate that. And I have to agree that the ballot box is the surest term limit.
I want to talk about a favorite subject of mine, that the disgraceful bridge leading into the town. I've spoken to you many times about it.
Which one is that, Marty?
The bridge coming over,
The railroad bridge over Route 82.
yeah,
Oh, over the railroad tracks there.
like
Yep,
you say the state
Yeah.
owns it.
yep.
Something's got to be done.
Why don't we do this?
Why don't you force the
I
state
would
to
propose a
come and
resolution
fix it?
tonight to be sent to New York State DOT complaining about the condition of that bridge. They've been talking about replacing the bridge since 2010. So why don't we send a letter to DOT from the town board requesting, demanding action on that bridge, because it is really a terrible
At
situation.
least paint it.
Yep. Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion?
Yes,
So moved.
Do I have a second? Yeah, let's put that together. Marty, I don't know if it's going to help, but we'll send something to DOT.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mike Keyser. I'm about a 12-year resident. I'm also chairman of the Recreation Advisory Board. I want to say thank you very much for your work. I know as a volunteer myself, it's a lot of hours and a lot of energy, so thank you for your time. I came to talk tonight about term limits a little bit. Been hearing a lot of talk, and I just wanted to put myself on the record and say that my vote and the vote of my fellow townspeople, to me, is my opinion that should be the term limits. What would be the motivation of a candidate to work hard and to continue to work for the town in that last phase of his, if he knows he's on the way out? You know, how does he, what level does he need to perform at is a concern of mine. I mean, you wouldn't go to the local hospital and release the nurses and the doctors who have 9 to 11 years experience and replace them. You wouldn't go to the police department or the fire department and do the same. The continuity, and the townspeople are speaking. One of our councilmen is just brand new, and it was the product of democracy. It wasn't a term limit that removed the gentleman that you replaced. It was the people's voice that came and put you in. So if the guys aren't doing their job, I have a feeling, and I watch a lot of these meetings, they're going to say something, and we're going to make a difference when the vote comes. So I just wanted to say that I'm very much against the term limits, and thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for all of your work.
May I just address the issue of term limits? I'll be very brief. There is a system in place for people to run for public office that is somewhat unbalanced in the town of East Fishkill. In other words, there is a caucus which selected candidates that are going to be on the ballot. We do not have a primary system. So I agree totally with you when you say that you as an elected, as a person that goes to the voting place to vote for that person, but that person is already pre-chosen prior to the time that you get to vote for somebody else. So there is a big distinction of what's going on. In other words, the total population does not have a say. It's a small group of people that present the candidate on the ballot, and that is somewhat of an issue. On a national level, except for a few states that they conduct a caucus, there are primaries, yes.
Well, Mike, I just want to say, if it's so unfair, though, Councilman, how did you win?
So to disclose to the whole community, to tell yourself, I got the endorsement of one party, it was the Conservative Party. I ran on one line. I was a registered Republican. I was not endorsed by the caucus of the Republican Party in the town of East Fishkill. I don't know, for whatever obvious reasons. I ran against a Democrat that the committee of the Republican Party had endorsed to run as a Republican. But the Republican Party would not endorse a Republican candidate. So that to me is a perplexing issue. So in other words, I ran on one line. I worked very hard. And I went to the people of the town of East Fishkill, and they voted for me. But many people get disenfranchised when somebody says you're not the candidate they would like, and they turn back and leave. So that's how I ran.
Okay, and excuse me, sir, before we go, because we're getting a little off track here, but being involved with the party for many years, obviously I'm a Republican. Town of East Fishkill, Republicans and Democrats have historically chosen their candidates by caucus. Caucuses have been done. Now, caucus is open to all Republicans in the town of East Fishkill. They're duly advertised. If you're Republican, you sign up at the door, you come in. I've seen caucuses where we've had over 300 people. I've seen primaries on other lines, which albeit one of the, the independence line or conservative line, which had much less participation. So we have, say, 300, the one I remember is 330 people at a caucus. I think it's pretty representative of the town. There's nothing that will stop that stops a Republican candidate from coming to a caucus, or a Republican that wishes to vote on it. So it really is, it is a system that we've used historically. And I think that people are are picked by qualification. And I think that is one of the things that the party looks at when they pick people for the candidacy. So the caucus has always been what we've done, and we've had very, very good turnouts and very representative of the town, I believe.
So just to respond to that, to the people that don't know how the caucus operates, there is a time limit when you could enter that room. There are many people in this community that work, and many times that time that you're supposed to enter the room, the deadline is 6 o'clock. Okay, there are many people that they work and they travel to the city that they can't make it over here. I've seen people behind the door trying to get in, and they're not allowed to be in there. So how fair is that system? I think it's a very controlled system. And that, although certain states, very few states still have a caucus system, the majority of the United States has a primary system.
Okay, I can't speak to what the other states do, but the caucus does close the doors, as by law, at 6 o'clock. So if you want to vote in a caucus, you come in, you come sign in, and that's what you do. And like I've said, we've had them very well attended. So I have this gentleman here who would like to speak, so I should let him speak, because he's been very patient. Yes, sir.
I'm Anthony DiCostanzo. My father came up here in 1959, was friends with Mr. O'Hare for many years. As far as term limits, every 2 years we get to vote on this new supervisor, and every 4 years we get to vote for our council people. If that ain't term limit, I don't know what is. But if you want to talk about caucuses and primaries, look at what happened in our national issue, okay? Look what we wound up with. We had caucuses and we had primaries, okay? And this is what the candidate we wound up with. That was your choice. It's the way it is. It's democracy in America. Thank God for America. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm George Geary. I've resided in the town for 40 years. I think you guys are doing a great job, number one. Number two, I thank you for coming on as a conservative. You worked hard at it. But to me, term limits at a national or state level are more appropriate than at a town level. You guys live here. You want the community to survive, to prosper. You're not here for the political clout. You're not here for the money. So term limits, to me, don't seem reasonable when you're elected, as the other gentleman said. Every 4 years, you get on the supervisor every 2. I'd rather see the supervisor every 4 years and everybody else every 4 years, but that's not my role. My feeling after this is that you're not, term limits seem inappropriate at a local level when how many people come out and really try to run for the town board? Be honest with you, I think sometimes it's a pain in the ass to all of you. But you do it as a service to the community. You're not paid very well, I suspect. I don't really know, but I know you're not paid very well. And you're working hard for the community. You want to help the community, which is more important to me than trying to put a term limit in. My feeling is, I didn't know of the caucus rule that you're talking about. So my feeling is if you want to change that, go change that before you put term limits in, because if you put I mean, look, you guys have changed the people on the board 6, 7 times over the past 10 years?
Yeah?
It seems, I don't know all of the details. I don't think I do, but I know that you've changed. That to me almost sounds like it's verbatim term limits, because nobody probably wants to serve more than a couple years because you've had enough of it after a certain amount of time, I suspect. So to me, if you put it up to a voter referendum, my wife and I wouldn't vote for it. So, but thank you.
Great, thank you very much. You know, one thing I would like to say, it's funny because you see a lot of laws come down from the federal government, from the state government, and just so that everybody knows, New York State has just adopted new building code, which is much more stringent than the old building code. So we see all these things come down from the state and the county and from the federal level. You kind of shake your head and you wonder, what the heck were these guys thinking? You know, but I always said the local government is the best government because we're responsive. You can walk in and we can talk. You know, we know what you're thinking. You know, it's not somebody away from here that's making all these decisions that's going to affect us. So I appreciate that.
Just one additional comment. A few years ago, there was, I remember the town supervisor wanted to change the term from a 2-year to a 4-year term, and it was put up for a referendum. And the town got to vote.
For which position was that, Councilman?
Town supervisor.
No, town supervisor's never been up for 4. I don't believe we ever did 4.
Yes, it was.
No, I think town
Yes, it was.
clerk, no.
Yes, it was.
Was it?
Yes, it was.
I'll have to check.
The town supervisor put in to
Maybe it
change
was.
from a 2-year to a 4-year term. And it went up for a referendum, and the whole population in the town voted it down. So, you know,
Well, that's a town speaking, though.
it's
Excuse me. Just a comment.
just let the people decide.
So at a previous meeting, a gentleman came up to speak. He spoke at length and very eloquently, I may add. And one of the things that he said, that even General George Washington was walking morality, and I couldn't have worded it better. And even General George Washington felt that there should be term limits. And a previous speaker had said, towards the end of a representative's term limit, there would be no incentive or little incentive for that representative to perform, produce. I had to presume that each and every one of you, when you are a candidate, it is your desire for the betterment of the community in which you serve. And I don't think that that would be any less towards the end of one's term limit than it is at the beginning. I had no intention on speaking about that this evening. I have 2 or 3 other items. If anybody else wants to comment on this issue, I will.
Before you get on to the next comment, and I do stand corrected, I do believe that a few years ago we put up for, Carol, who did we put up for a 4-year term?
It was town
You're-
clerk, it was
yeah.
highway superintendent, I believe it
Highway
was.
superintendent,
I
and that
believe
might have been
so.
mine, so I do stand
I'm not
corrected. I forgot
positive,
about
yeah.
that.
I
I have never had a problem with a 2-year term, but it's just the way it goes, and I stand corrected on that one.
Everyone's, John.
Okay,
Yeah, I think
all
so.
right,
And,
yes,
and
thank you.
as another speaker had said, that put it on the ballot for a referendum.
Absolutely.
He and his, I think he said his spouse may not vote for it, but
Yeah,
the public may feel differently.
absolutely. Excuse me, sir, you're going to have to go up to the microphone, and if the gentleman would allow you to make this comment because we're having this little thing back and forth on term limits.
For 30 years, I've been on committees in political situations. I've been on Sheriff Anderson's committee since his inception, but if you take it at that level as sheriff, there's no one in here that doesn't know Sheriff Anderson. If you take a guy and give him 2 terms of 1 term, you're going to replace him with somebody that we don't know. The guy is tremendous. He's been here 20 years. He's been here 47 years as a cop. Take Keenan Lawler. Keenan Lawler's up in Albany every day fighting. As he's got to run constantly anyway, so he's campaigning plus working. You give term limits on that guy, you're going to take it. Take a young fellow who wants to run for office, and we tell him, well, you can run 1 term, 4 years, 2 years, or you can run 2 terms, 2 years, whatever we do. What's the incentive for young folks to get involved in politics? We need young folks in politics. But term limits don't work. They do not work. They stop. You guys have done water programs. How long does it take? You got an environmental impact, DEC, the feds, the Army Corps of Engineers now is taking over every project. They don't have enough people.
They don't.
To do it. So we're stifled. We deal with Con Edison. How many years?
3 years
you
on
can't
that.
get stuff. How are we
Yep.
going to get stuff done?
Yeah.
Because you're going to bring a new pup in, and he's going to start all over, he or she.
Yep.
They just don't work.
Yep.
You guys are doing it. I disagree with you too. I bitterly fight with some of you sometimes. But we move it, and the bottom line, as that gentleman said, it's the power to vote. That's how we changed it. That's how we changed this country. The power to vote, not putting stipulations on people that we can only run 2 years or 4 years.
Yep.
I know we don't want to make a career. I wouldn't take this job. You make $13,000 a year. What are you, crazy? Do it, because you do it. You too, man. $13,000 a year.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm a 23-year resident, being we all seem to be giving some credentials that make no matter on the subject whatsoever. I'm a, a self-proclaimed genius, a member of Mensa, a rocket scientist, whatever. They have nothing, those things have nothing to do with your thoughts on term limits, first of all. And I don't mean no disrespect, I don't mean any disrespect to anybody that spoke about this, but I just want to make the point very clear. Whatever boards you're on, or whatever your profession is, or whatever you're self-proclaimed to be, really has no effect on what you think about term limits. By now, it should be obvious, I am very for term limits in East Fishkill. The big question is, why does the highest level of government have term limits at all if it's not something that's good, that works? Why was it put in place? The previous speaker had mentioned that term limits don't work. That's an opinion, I assume, or present the facts that they don't work. And to have 3 and 4 people come up here suddenly out of the blue looks pretty fishy to me, but anyway, I'll speak my mind on it. I am all for term limits. People in general do not easily accept change, but change is good, and change is what makes things progress forward. When you don't have term limits, you become very stagnant. I would say that right now, this town and town board, and primarily Supervisor Hickman is very stagnant, okay? When you don't have term limits and you stay in your position for as long as you do without any need to prove yourself or concerns about a primary or anything like that where you really have to prove yourself, you tend to take more and more away from the people, which we see you do repeatedly. You take on more and more things that you personally can sign off on without asking anyone about. History shows this. Every board go back on all the board meetings and calculate them up. That's what's happening. The main thing I see is I hear people saying that the election itself is the same thing as term limits. Then what are we afraid of? What is it going to cost us to go and ask the people if they would like to have term limits? Are we going to base this off of 3 or 4 people's comments? No. This is a town-wide decision. Now, as far as having the elections act as term limits, you only get about 5,000 people on average from this town of, I don't know, is it 30 or 35,000 people in this town? You get 5,000 people out to vote. Very little. Whereas if you had term limits, then the turnover would be put in place, and we'd have some new ideas, fresher ideas, nothing stale or stagnant, someone with a new approach, a new vision. And their responsibility would be to take over where the last person had left off. If the person fails in their duties because they feel that their term is almost up and they don't want to do anything, then good riddance. That shows what kind of character they are, and we don't need that kind of character in there. So I am a proponent, a big proponent of term limits. I am a big proponent of primaries. I think the people's voice is should be heard the most. You cannot make, or you should not make, decisions on how you are governed. You work for us. We should make the decisions of how you are governed, and the decision whether there should be term limits or primaries should be on the ballot for the people to decide. Although it would only be about 5,000 people, let them decide. Don't let a handful of people here make that decision, nor should you make that decision for the 5 people up there. That's all I want to say about term limits. Thank you.
Just out of curiosity in this room, by raising their hands, how many people agree that a presidential term limits is effective? Presidential? Yes.
Listen, if you're going to use that as an example, how well does Washington run?
Well, I think the president himself has a lot of power to sway the nation one way or another. Now, whether or not, I agree with you 100% that the Senate and the House don't work. But you know why they don't work? Because there is no term limits. You got people in there that have been there 50 years. They die in there, okay? And the people, the Senate and the House, will not vote for term limits. Look what's going on in Washington. People go to jail because you do not have the power to overtake those people, because they got so much money once they reach power that it's very hard to take them down. That is the bottom line. Well,
Then the issue should be
Yeah.
money, not as much term limits.
Okay. My only, yeah, no, and my only comment to that would be, and I agree that I think that if you look at the federal government, senators and things of that nature get away from us. I do wonder why you would, I think that the vote is probably the cornerstone of democracy, and how you would arbitrarily say that you can't vote for a person after 10 years or after 8 years. I think you're taking away the people's rights, but that's just my thought, so we'll continue this later. Yes, sir.
So, on the same subject, one of the previous speakers had mentioned a loss of experience, and I would agree that there's plenty of experience sitting up there. However, that is exactly why you would have staggered representation. There wouldn't be a term limit for the entire board, and then there's a flush, and then we get a whole new representation. So to say that we put all of our eggs into one basket and we lose one individual because his term limit has expired does not mean that we lose the entire representation and the hired people that work for the town. So we don't lose all of the experience with the loss of one term limit. And again, as I said, I had other things to state or question, and I'll yield if anybody else wants to continue to comment on this.
Been through this before, and it takes a long time to know how to run a town or state or whatever. You don't just walk in there and say, we'll do this and do that. You can't do it. And I believe in, if you're a good man, you're doing a good job, you deserve to be there. And I'll vote for you again.
Great, thank you. Anybody else like to speak on general town issues?
3 terms for town board, which is 12 years, and 5 terms for town supervisor, actually 6, which will make it equal to 12 years.
The term limits I'm not totally against it. It sounds like a very attractive situation. But to say that the people don't have power over their representation, that's a little bit misleading in a sense to all. You can vote somebody in, you can vote somebody out. And I think the 2-year term in a lot of the cases is just not enough. If he's saying 4 or 5 years. Now, to get a qualified person and actually want to do this, most of the jobs are a little bit thankless. I mean, it is grinding for the public in one sense. And when we say about the president and things of that nature, those were 300 years ago, and we kept him that way until Teddy Roosevelt, when we needed him for another term, people did vote him in. So the people can overturn anything as far as through voting. And if a person is not doing his job, first term, why even wait for 3 or 4 terms? They can vote him the next one, the next term, they vote him out. Most of the people here, by the time they get to know what they're doing, how they're doing it, and most of us know each other. East Fishkill, you might say, there's 35,000, how many people? 35,000 in East Fishkill?
30,000.
30,000. 30,000 is not a huge municipality. Most people know each other, and most people are professionals and blue-collar workers. It's across the board. East Fishkill enjoys a really across-the-board type of population. We've enjoyed a lot of professionals because of IBM, but you have a lot of people on board who have experience in engineering, have experience in law, have experience in building, and all types. So term limits, as attractive as it sounds, you still have the power to vote someone out only with 1 term, if the person's not doing his job. To say we're going to lose the whole board at 1 shot, that's true, but you would lose very talented people. If you have a person who you really want to keep, and he's talented, and he's proven that he's been working diligently for the town, for you, for me, for themselves, because they all live here. Most of the people, not all the people in East Fishkill live in East Fishkill within the boundaries of this beautiful town of ours. I think it would be a little bit of a negative situation for us. I do agree, the president, to have terms, because we do not want to create a king. Dictatorship is different than when you say a person has been in office for 4 terms, 5 terms. Dictatorship is people have no choice in removing whoever is supposedly representing them. They don't represent them anymore. But when there's people being represented and you have to vote them in, that's a whole different situation. That is democracy at its best. If I'm doing a good job, why should I be limited how many years I can serve my town, how many years I can serve my country? So in some cases it's warranted, but I don't think it's warranted in this one. Even as a town supervisor, if there's 6 terms, 8 terms, but the councilman, and you go and work the board, I mean, it is a very difficult and slippery slope. In my opinion, and I've been here for a while, I've seen a lot of people come and go, and the board was not always the same people that I see today. And some were able to stay, and some were voted out, some left. So voting is the most powerful tool. I've been all over the world, I've seen countries, I've seen places where they don't have this choice. The people stay in there until they die, not because they're not voted out, because there is no voting. We enjoy a great deal of freedom in doing so. So to vote someone out is probably the most powerful thing we can do. Not saying, hey, you've served 6 years, get out. Just because the law says so. No. You serve 2 years, you're lousy, you're not doing your job, we vote him out. I think we should be promoting more voting, promoting more better choice, more disclosure from everyone who's running. Transparency from the people running would serve us better. Maybe put in some ethics and the people running to be a strong, ethical people. And
Good point.
thank you.
Anybody else like to speak?
I would just like to add on the same subject that that being in the absence of a primary rather than a caucus, that term limits would be appropriate and/or vice versa. All the accusations in the past general election about voter fraud, the Russians were involved, and whatever else anybody can imagine, especially on the losing side. Of course, sore losers will gripe, but certainly I think there's room for change.
There's no Russians in East Fishkill, though. Well, maybe not.
No, go ahead, Keith, why don't you make your comments?
Okay. I'd like to inquire, it's that time of the year again where there is an annual MS4 report that is coming due. Typically in the past, the MS4 consultant, Walter Artis, comes here.
It'll be posted soon. Just, if I may.
Yeah, sure, please do.
He emailed me this last week. He said he's completed our report.
Okay.
He's going to submit it to us to post on our website. He'll be at the workshop meeting to discuss it with us, and hopefully we'll be signing it at the last meeting in May, because it's due June 1st. But it will be posted on the website probably next week.
Okay.
Although, I will say, we've gotten Dutchess County to do our website, and we've been having some issues with postings. They haven't gone as smoothly as we would like. So, but I believe that the county is going to work with us to get these things posted.
Thank you. Excellent segue to my next comment on the town website. In the March 23rd town board meeting, you expressed you had no intentions of posting the Hillside Lake.
All the stuff that we had there, the huge files.
I understand it was large, and I don't know if there is a data cap with the new website. If that's the case, then I totally understand, and probably needed a little cleaning of house. But I went on the town website today, and if you click on the residents, a drop-down screen appears, and in that drop-down screen, you can click on current projects. And in current projects, the first one is the Cannon Property Groundwater Exploration. The last time it was updated was in 2013. The next is the Dartantra Drive report regarding the cell site. Last time it was updated was 2012. Just under that one is the Dogwood Knolls. I believe that was for a cell site also. Last time that was updated was 2012. I can go on.
We can if you want, sure.
Well, I don't want to.
I think I got the gist.
Okay. Hopewell Glen water test results, 2017, very good, but I can see the urgency for that to be going on. Two subjects regarding Hopewell Precision. They're actually links to our government websites. No activity required by the town of East Fishkill because they're just hyperlinks. Route 52 soil contamination, last update in 2013. So my point being is we have a $700,000 plus project going on in Hillside Lake, and there are currently 3 sentences and a picture that I could have done with crayons in regards to the Hillside Lake stormwater project. I think there's some urgency for that to happen. Lastly, I would like to comment on something that happened on April 4th of this year, that being some urgency of operating Hillside Lake valve. It really turned into a nightmarish type of activity. I think it was certainly unwarranted, and perhaps after May 20th, this will be moot, hopefully. This particular valve was spoken about extensively from June to November in 2011. You can look at them yourself in town board meetings. At that time, I had expressed that the town will have a need to operate this particular valve that had to be open on April 4th. At least one homeowner was frightened about property damage because of water encroachment, probably about 10 feet to the foundation of their home. And it was probably imminent. Had we gotten the 1 or 2 inches that we were expecting to get more after that particular date. And people had to jump through hoops unnecessarily to get relief for that to happen.
Why do we have that key? I'm just trying to figure out. In the past,
I
years
don't
ago.
quite understand any of this myself.
The Hillside
Maybe I'm
Lake.
gonna ask
Well,
you.
perhaps if I read the memo
Excuse
from
me.
2011.
No, it's just, excuse me, just years ago, I remember when Jack Schmidt was the head of the Hillside Lake Board, I thought he handled opening and closing the valve. I thought he would call us and tell us. And then when he left, he turned over the valve, but
Well,
why
back in
would
that
we?
time, there was no valve. The valve was
Well, that's
rotted,
right, it was
deteriorated,
broken,
and the
yeah.
water just ran out, and it was Jack who requested
That's
valve
right.
be fixed.
Yeah,
Okay, now, we never operated the old sluice gate that I'm
Yeah.
aware of, and
yeah. There was
we
no
only
need.
operated if asked to.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not quite sure where you're going with this, but the town could leave it 100% open, they could leave it closed.
That's not the purpose of the valve.
You tell me what the purpose of the valve is.
Well,
How do you
the
know what the
purpose-
purpose of the valve is? Tell me,
you-
did you
Well, I
design
know
it?
I know what it actually does facilitate.
Let's
Excuse
go
me,
to the
excuse me.
original
You asked
valve.
me a question, I'd like to respond. I know what it does facilitate. It facilitates an overabundance of town stormwater going into Hillside Lake. And I can tell you exactly what was going on that particular day. In your memo
But that
from,
particular day is not the point.
in
The
your
point is
memo
the
from
original-
November
we're just
16,
trying to figure-
2011, you very specifically say the town has no interest in operating valves to regulate stormwater flows.
Right.
The metal sluiceway does that. That is exactly what was not happening, is the metal sluiceway could not discharge the water fast enough as it was coming in
I'll tell you
from those
why.
recent storms.
And I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Because the dock that somebody installed is attached right in front of that spillway, and in the spring, you have all that debris that gets clogged up right in front of it, okay? Now, the town didn't put the dock there.
I can show you pictures from April
Be
4th
there.
that isn't what was happening.
And it's exactly what was happening,
No,
exactly.
sir, I can show
Are
you
an
pictures
engineer,
that is
sir? Are
not
you an
what was
engineer?
happening.
Are you an engineer?
I don't need to be an engineer, I got eyes and I saw it.
You should see the
Excuse
dock, and
me,
you ought to see the
excuse
debris in
me.
front.
I do not want to get into a debate about this. I think you both have very good reasons for your positions. I would like to understand a little bit, would the Hillside Lake Board like to operate the valve? Why is the town in the middle of this when you guys are there on the site?
Because we do
And you
not
can
reg-
use your judgment. I'm just a
Because we
question.
don't regulate when it rains, what the amount of rain comes.
No, we don't either.
And the the flow of water that comes in via 8 discharges of town stormwater.
But I would offer that, as town supervisor, I have nothing to do with the amount of rain that falls either.
Okay.
And those discharges have been there for many, many years, and I
I
just.
beg to differ
and my
with you, and I would like to present to you exactly why I differ with you. And that being, why I would never begrudge anybody of drainage so that their properties don't flood,
Right.
just like this young woman. As many as, I believe, 7 catch basins were extended in January of this year to flow into Hillside Lake. Now, if I flush my toilet and my excrement goes in your front yard, does that make it yours?
If that was to happen, I would be very unhappy. Maybe we should not have extended these catch basins, and maybe there was no reason to do that. I would have to look at the highway situation. Typically, it's a drainage issue. So understanding your point, that because the increase in catch basins, which I believe was to address a highway issue, it runs into Hillside Lake. Okay.
What
You
I've
don't
been
kn-
saying since
Well, I was just saying-
2011 is that I think it would have been amicable arrangement for the town to take partial financial responsibility of these activities. That's what I've been saying all these years.
About the opening and closing of the valve, do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, you guys are right
As I
there.
prefaced all of this, I'm hoping it's a moot point after May 20th.
Okay. Okay,
All right, thanks for your attention.
Supervisor, I'd like to add something, though.
sure.
That valve was open 5 turns, okay? And then a day later or so, we opened it 5 more turns. We went from probably 2 CFS to 4 CFS in that period of time, and there was an impact on the level of the lake, okay? Not a drastic impact, but you could see the water going down several inches, okay? That's metal spillway that goes between the main lake and the pond. There's a dock that's mounted, you've got 2 eyes, you
I'm
see
familiar
the
with it.
dock I'm talking about, and you must have seen all that debris that accumulated in front of that. Don't
Scott,
shake your
I'll
head.
email you the
Don't shake your
pictures.
head, I'm talking, sir, I'm talking,
You
okay?
bet.
Now, there's a trickle of water going through that spillway, okay? I guarantee everyone sitting in this room, we remove that dock, we solve the problem. It's that simple. Do we have the board here? Mr. Waller, authorize the town to remove that dock. You go figure it out and you let us know what you want to do. End of story.
It's not the end of the story, because I could show you pictures,
wrong, sir.
plural,
You're
of
wrong.
exactly
Sir,
what...
let's leave it open, and let's take a look at the dock,
Okay, well...
if you
I-
wouldn't mind.
I don't appreciate being controverted when I was there that
Let's take a look at
particular
the
day.
dock.
So was I.
Let's take a look at the dock, and let's not,
Very good.
okay. All right,
Bill McClellan, Highway Superintendent. I know everybody's concerned about the sweepers. Right now, we've done about 3/4 of the town, the sweeping programs at Old Hopewell, Loma La area. I'm sure everybody's familiar with all the lawn damage that has happened over the winter. We're damn near completed with all that. We have 3 crews out, and they're doing a fantastic job cleaning everybody's lawns up, raking them, seeding them, getting rid of where we rolled the topsoil up, rolled up the berms. So we're done with that. We have started our main paving project. We milled and paved Old Route 52 in Stormville between the post office and Seaman Road. That came out real well. We paved Strawberry Hill, one of our
last
dirt
remaining
roads.
dirt roads.
One of our dwindling list of dirt roads. We paved Van Brook Drive, which is going up the mountain on the left-hand side. Those people have been waiting for years, and I'm happy to get it done for them. Right now, we're on Limekiln Extension, which basically goes from the park and ride up to East Hook Crossroad. There's an awful lot of loaded truck traffic on that coming out of West Hook Gravel Bank. 2 years ago, we did East Hook Crossroad, and this year we're doing the Limekiln Extension. So we're resolving the issues there. Next week, we'll be paving one of our last town dirt roads, which is Wheats Road, and then we have Blueberry Hill to pave. We will be paving Miller Hill above the TSP starting late next week, all the way to the county line. That's a 2.7-mile project, so those people will be happy. As far as the parks and the highway, as you know, everybody was itching as soon as it turned 70 degrees to go out and play, and then we got 24 inches of snow. So the crews have been doing a great job. The parks and highway crews both intermingled everybody. The concept that the town board had with getting rid of the recreation and incorporating the highway, so it's one unit, Parks Highway, I think is working out very, very well. I thank everybody for their thought on that, and I think that whole concept is working out well. So, again, I'd like to thank everybody for their patience, all the residents, all the taxpayers. We've had an awful lot of damage. We're out there fixing it. We have 3 crews out there almost every day. We're trying to get it all back together again. If you drive by the highway department and look at the mound of broken curbs out there, you'll understand how much really we have out there. Awful lot of damage, but we have great people and they're doing a great job. So, last thing is Hillside Lake had a litter pickup last Saturday. Lisa McNamara headed it up. I was fortunate to be there. We had a council person manning there. Did an awful lot of pickup. I think for the gentleman who brought all the garbage and all the trash and litter and tires to one place, and then one of the Parks crew people went out and picked it all up, and we disposed of it at Royal Karting. So Lisa McNamara, every year she does it. She does a great job, and I'd like to thank her for that. Other than that, that's basically it, except we are still looking for more seasonal hires, more seasonal people to work in the parks, and if you have anybody that's interested,
Okay,
we'd be more than happy to entertain an application. Thank you.
great, thank you. All righty. Oh,
Hello again. A few months ago, when the dissolution of Hillside Lake Park District was brought to the table and we were moving forward with that, I had inquired how you will notify the residents of the voting date and the location. And I believe your response was there's some kind of, we'll probably send out some kind of postcard or something.
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
I believe your response was you will send out some kind of postcard or something.
Oh, I thought we discussed that. We were talking about advertising the vote. Correct?
Where?
The voting day, the polling place, all that.
Where?
Is
Where would
that
you
what you were
advertise it?
talking about, sir?
Where would you advertise it?
Excuse me, 1 second. That's what you're talking about, advertising the poll, the date, where it's going to be.
I'm not talking about advertising. I'm talking about notifying the residents
Okay.
of Hillside Lake that there is a vote coming up, when it is and where it is.
Okay. Now, as chairman of the Hillside Lake Board, do you have any?
I'm not chairman of the Hillside Lake Board.
As part of the Hillside Lake Board, do you have any type of emails? Do you have any connections? How do you have your votes in Hillside Lake when you run for office?
This is not a Hillside Lake Board issue. This was
Oh,
presented.
no, this is for the
a
community
petition
that
for-
you represent.
This is a petition that was presented by over 200 residents of
I
Hillside
recognize
Lake.
that. Okay.
So if you want to discuss how we operate the Hillside Lake Board, I will gladly do that after we
Okay.
we finish this discussion on how
All
we
right.
plan to notify the people.
Okay, you petitioned the town of East Fishkill to hold a vote.
I did not petition the town of East
You,
Fishkill.
the people, well, petitions were
230-some-odd people. Residents.
petitions were circulated by
Correct.
people. I
My
believe that you
signature
were
is on
one.
there, correct.
I believe you were one. They're circulated through the community. You requested that we hold a vote. How are we going to notify the public in Hillside Lake? I'll have to think about, maybe we'll put out a mailing. That's very possible. Maybe we should put something in the newspaper. Would you put it up on your sign?
Oh, absolutely, we will be putting it
Oh,
up
that's
on the
good.
marquee.
Do you have any
absolutely.
internet access to anybody? Do you have, like, you don't have a community internet or anything like that?
Nope.
Okay. I'll take a look at, see if we can put
But
out
we do
some.
have a
put out some-
town internet website as well. It has a, current happenings front page, splash page on there.
On your site?
Yeah, and I would believe
good.
that would fall under the title of current happenings, being it's less than a month away.
I'll see if we can send out a mailer.
Okay, when will I know about that? Because we're talking about less than a month away.
Okay, we'll see if we can get it out in a couple weeks. I believe, I would ask the clerk, because to be honest with you, I normally don't do elections. Carol, do you think we have a list of the residences in Hillside Lake that we could send out a mailer to everyone in Hillside Lake?
We have a list.
Okay.
We're going to need help.
Why don't we put together a postcard, we'll have it printed up, and we'll have it mailed out. You don't want to have it too far before the vote.
Right.
People forget. So why don't we shoot at something going out, let's see,
Well,
May
May
20th?
20th is the vote.
I would say we'll put something out the second week in May.
That would be fine.
No, it'll simply say, there's going to be a vote on the dissolution of the Hillside Lake Park District.
Right.
Hillside Lake Firehouse, whatever the date,
Location,
whatever the time is.
The date, and brief
Okay.
description of what it is. As well, will that be going to
Send it to-
every available voter?
We just do it to the resident, I believe,
Right,
to each
the
house.
To each house.
Each house.
Okay. Thank
The
you.
list that list is the. who-
Yeah, we could use that list,
homeowners,
sure.
You know,
Okay.
So one to a house would be
yeah.
enough in that case.
And I might add,
yes.
just by law, the town clerk will publish a notice in the official
Mm-hmm.
newspaper of the town more than 10 days before. I think that would be the edition of the second week in May. It would also be posted on the official signboard of the town.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the law requires. Anything else is additional.
Well, that's what I'm asking, if we're going to do the
Yeah, we
additional,
could do
because
this.
in the past, there was a non-formal vote that you had sent postcards out for several years ago. I
Yeah.
don't recall
Yeah,
exactly
we'll
what it
put
was
something out.
for. You had people mail them back to you.
Yep, absolutely.
So you're
Yeah,
committing to
we'll
that?
shoot for something by second week, we should have
All right,
something
you're
out.
you're committing to that?
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
As well as on the website in the last workshop meeting,
Mm-hmm.
you had responded to my request to fix the website and have it
Mm-hmm.
work. The calendar does not show the agenda anymore when you click on it. And at that meeting, you had stated that it's fixed, and now right below the calendar, you can click on that and the agenda will pop up.
I'm told you scroll down and the agendas are down below that, no?
Not even on that day.
Not even on that,
No.
okay.
So it's still something pending that should be looked into.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, oh,
Something a little different. My name is Steve Siriano. I'm here with my wife, Pat Siriano. We've been residents of this town for a long time. We own commercial property in this town. We care about this town. We actually run a Facebook site for the town residents called East Fishkill Community Forum, where we try to keep the community informed on what's going on. Relative to that, tonight's meeting will probably be on there tomorrow, as it will be on YouTube. And one thing that I have to say is, or a question I should say, I watch them on YouTube. We work a lot, we're not home, I cannot attend a lot of meetings, but the comment section on YouTube is disabled.
It's what?
Disabled.
What's disabled?
You are not, the comment, if you watch
Oh.
a town meeting on YouTube, why is the comment section disabled? If I cannot attend a meeting, cannot watch East Fishkill 22, why is the comment section, do you not want to hear them, the comments from the people? Now, I will tell you, one of the reasons that I started East Fishkill Community Forum is it's for our town residents,
Yeah,
and anybody can comment
good,
on any issue,
okay.
okay? But I was just curious as to why the comment section was,
Okay. I've never been on YouTube in my life, number one. People that do the website, I don't believe that they wanted a debate section on the town of East Fishkill. It's just for information. So it's basically just to get the information out there.
okay, all right.
Okay.
Second issue tonight, the construction across the street. Me and my wife were driving by the other day, and I am just that has to be the unsafest crossing I've ever seen. Dealing with the demographic that you're dealing with, which is elderly, possibly disabled, I would,
You're talking about crossing 376 here?
crossing 376, coming into the parking
I don't
lot.
think it's done yet. I do
Well,
see
it's
people-
functional,
Excuse me?
it's functional.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, I know, like, people from Hopewell Garden, a lot of people walk up and down the roads to town. I don't believe that the project, the crosswalk is complete, is it yet?
No, they still have to put the push-button flashers in.
Yeah. So I think that, once it's done, it'll be much safer.
Now, who is doing, is the DOT doing that?
The developer's putting the crosswalk in, DOT had to approve the push-button.
Is it approved?
Signals and the location.
Was that approved by the DOT? You have the work permit for that?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When will it be finished? Because there's people using it now.
Yes, that's correct, yeah. We're pushing for that right now. We're pushing for that to get installed.
Shouldn't have that, okay, but when was the
Well,
permit?
the history behind it is it's kind of like a new program that DOT has for crosswalks. Originally, DOT just said a crosswalk with no flashing light. We really argued with DOT at this location and also down by John Jay that we really need to have flashing. So DOT had to write a new spec, which was just finalized, and that's been now submitted officially to DOT for their review, even though they spec'd it themselves, so we can get these things installed. So that's the reason for the delay, is that it's brand new
Okay, what kind of delay are we talking about?
within this region. okay?
What kind of delay do you think we're talking? Because it's functional now.
We have a meeting next week, I believe, with DOT to try to finalize, and one of those things we want to finalize is that crosswalk.
Okay. Now, when you talk about the local law and providing access to the center of the hamlet, okay, which is one of your local laws, how does that crosswalk coming onto town property provide access to the center of the hamlet?
Because there's a path that goes right down the back here. You can walk all the way into the hamlet.
The long way.
Well, the law doesn't say it has to be direct. You can't force a developer to build the improvement, i.e. sidewalk, beyond the boundaries of their property. The developer had originally agreed to go to the boundary of our property across the street, but DOT did not want to have a crosswalk at this end of our property because they felt that was, I guess, a busier entranceway, whatever their reason was. So then that sidewalk cross street comes to the approximate end of the property across the
I
street.
walked it. I walked
Then
it.
it will cross over, and then it connects into our town hall campus, which then connects all the way through.
Right. So legally, you're covered on that, covering the law. Realistically speaking, if I need a quart of milk, I don't think I would go that way.
Well, that's
I
not
think
the
that
way
I would take the
we
shortest
preferred, but I
way.
do believe that that was what DOT insisted upon. I would like to have seen a sidewalk system. We actually had applied for a grant to install a sidewalk system into the hamlet, but unfortunately, we were denied. The developer cannot be told he has to build one that far, so I agree with you. I think the sidewalk should have been on the other side, and I think it should have been
Well,
directly into the hamlet, but,
I'm just saying from a safety standpoint,
well, I think that's what we're talking about here, yeah.
correct, that, I know I wouldn't, if I needed something and I was going to Acme and living there, I'm going to take the shortest route. Is there any liability that we have?
I don't believe so. This is a DOT, had a lot of input into this, and we've
And it's workforce housing, so everybody there works, so they have vehicles to drive to work. The disabled that you mentioned, they're provided transportation by, the name escapes me, Abilities First.
First, yeah.
And to go, or they drive themselves, those residents.
Oh,
So
But let's
it's
see,
the same number of people who might want to walk that live at Hopewell Glen.
Hopewell
Or
Gardens.
there's people that live in the corner down here, they choose to walk to
Like
the
I
store.
said, I just looked at that local law, and I'm wondering how you covered yourself legally, and then I looked at it realistically.
May I interject? I mean, I spoke about this issue with the town supervisor in the past couple of weeks. It is a public safety issue. I traveled the Route 376 quite a bit, and I observed people, a lady with a carriage and one or two children on each side, walking back and forth on that side of the road on 376. And I went to John, I said, John, this is a problem. Something is gonna happen over here. And he was concerned. He said to me, DOT didn't allow it to build a sidewalk on their side. I also drove one day in the afternoon, and there was a young man with a hood. He must have been 17, maybe 18. He had a hood on. I was coming toward the development over here. He didn't bother looking either way. He just crossed. So, and again, I spoke to John about it, and he is concerned. There is an issue going on over here. I did a little bit more. I spoke to the planner. I spoke to the chair lady of the planning board. Because when this low-income housing was first put together, there was a local town law. I believe it's 190.
There is, I don't know what the section is offhand.
It's town law
I think Councilman's in 194.
194-91-1. And in that law, which was, it is a local law for the town, paragraph 6 says, provide pedestrian connection to the hamlet center nearest to the workforce housing. Also in the law, we talk about something to be constructed to accomplish their purpose without detriment to the general health, safety, and welfare of the resident of the town of East Fishkill. So this project went through the reviews, and I spoke to the planner. I says, how was this project approved when we have this kind of issues pending? She says, let me look into it. Unfortunately, before tonight, I was not able to get an answer. But to me, a project like this that becomes now a town supervisor problem, it's an issue.
Well, I appreciate that.
Why wasn't this project?
But there's more to it
Just,
than that.
yeah, I think there's a little more to it, I think there's little gaps in the facts.
Yeah, since
I
this
know-
project.
Well,
since
we
this
we
project-
had
yeah, let
applied.
me just finish my
I'm sorry.
statement, Tom, and then you could answer. Since this project was in a process, I also went to pull some papers. I see that some of these projects, when they go in front of the planning board, the documents get passed through the different agencies. Some of them are the advisory fire board. It's the Town of East Fishkill Fire Advisory Board, it's called. And at the time, it was May 5th, 2015. The members present were Jeff Quarters, John Jackson, Artie Kaufman, Dave Palin, and Bill Stewart. Their comments, second comment, the Federal Advisory Board is not in favor of the entrance to the side being directly across from the Opal Station 1. So now, usually, when private people in the town put projects together, some of these comments are very relevant, and people have to cross all the Ts in order for a project to be approved. I know. I talk to a lot of people in the town, and some people have those concerns. It is because of a safety issue that I raised these questions. How was it that this project was approved when we still have pending issues, and I even have documentation from Dutchess County DOT. If you want, I could read it. Also, I have some comments from April 21st, 2015, from the chairlady, Ms. G, where she said, one key component that everybody seemed to be interested in was setting pedestrian connections from this community into the town complex. I remember at the time, there were a lot of questions asked from the public when we had public hearing about connections and how people are going to go from that side to the center of town. Usually, people take the shortest route, which is now probably the safest route. This could be, if we don't take care of this, and my question is, again, why was this project allowed to continue and get approval if we have such an important pending issue?
May we respond?
Sure.
Tom,
Well,
I know you
just a couple of things. First of all, 376 and Route 52 are both under the jurisdiction of New York State DOT. I think the community would ask a lot of same questions about the John Jay crosswalk, how DOT allowed that to be put in. Then there was someone was hurt, and then they decided to move it and re-signalize it. So in the development of any property in the town, when it's frontage on a state highway, proposals are submitted to New York State DOT. It's their road, they control it. First, the comment from the Fire Advisory Board, the original plan was for a total realignment. For 34 years, I always cross my fingers and pray a minute before I
Going
go
out
out this
that
driveway,
entrance, yeah.
because you get T-boned very easily here because of the configuration of the curve. So the original plan that was submitted and the developer was willing to do the work on this side would have fixed the entranceway that is used both by the town hall and by the fire company. Unfortunately, the fire company didn't see their way clear to allow the modification to the entranceway. So that's why part of the alignment of the intersection was not improved. The town engineer did, at least was able to get the our curb moved back a little bit, so now it's a tad safer, but still it's a dangerous roadway, but that's what DOT and the adjoining property owners on this side came up with. As far as the crosswalk, as I've indicated, originally it was to bring it down to the end of the town property, which would be a little further to the library, and then have a crosswalk there. The town did apply for a grant. The problem going down Route 376 here is that on the far side, the homes are very close to the road, and if you do a taking there, you'd be right into it. So those were a lot of the factors that goes into it. And there are many developments in the town on state highways where the approval of DOT does not necessarily match what our desires are or what our concept is.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we were very active in trying to get DOT to move that entrance, so in compliance with the FAB's comments, but they were insistent that it go at that location.
And the original plan also showed it sharing the sewer plant driveway, which would be further down as opposed to here. So there were a lot of things that went into that. As far as the fire advisory board things, they did comment on that entranceway, and as I said, we did try to align it and fix it, but, you know, between the property owner and DOT, that's the plan that was approved by DOT. As far as town liability, it's a state highway, it's all approved by the state.
And
So,
in fact, DOT approved the crosswalk without any flashing markers. We continued to lobby DOT to get those flashing
Can I ask you a
markers, so
question
they
on
are
that?
going in.
Okay. I did a little research. I'm looking at the DOT Highway Design Manual. I just want to read you one paragraph that I found of interest. All right, it says, number one, well, actually, I'll refer this to what I said, walking around the long way. They start off under Pedestrian Facility Design 1, and it said the maximum distance that people with disabilities should reasonably be expected to divert from their intended path would be 50 meters and 75 meters. Now they go into the crossing. The typical walking speed used and designed for pedestrians is 1.2 meters per second. However, there may be contextual situations that require consideration for longer crossing times. Examples include pedestrian facilities serving nursing home, elementary school, and medical facilities. When determining the proper walking speed for crossing an intersection, project designers should consider pedestrians who may be disabled, which suits here, or age 65 or older, which is another part of your demographic, and 14 years or younger. So basically what they're talking about is the three components of what we have across the street there. Was this taken into, is there just a blinking light? Now the other thing that I might mention is, and it's by your own accord, that the typical car driving down that road exceeds the maximum rate of speed by 10 miles an hour. You know, so what you say there's going to be a blinking light, a blinking light.
No, what it is, when you walk up to the light, just like any crosswalk, you push the button and the light flashes.
The light flashes.
Yeah, doesn't mean the car is necessarily going to stop.
There's
It's a
no red
warning
light. There's nothing.
It's a warning light.
There's nothing stopping those cars.
I don't believe it's an actual stop, it's more of a warning light.
DOT wouldn't consider a traffic
And again, this is all
light.
under the review of DOT.
Well,
The
let me
town-
just say this,
The town
I
has
mean,
no say in that permit. It's a DOT
This
issued
is the
permit.
DOT decision, correct? I mean, I can't speak
They
to the
approved it
DOT
without
manual.
any device at all,
Yes,
DOT.
but this is our community.
Understand it, but this is a state road, and this is a DOT decision. So I think that if the DOT is going to put this in rather soon, I would hope.
Well, they're approving it. It's the developer that's going to put it in.
puts it in.
Okay.
but
Right,
DOT
but the road is, the crossing is functional as we speak. Correct?
It could be functional without a crosswalk. People
Right
can
now, it's
cross with nothing
consistent
there.
with basically the DOT approval. We're trying to do an enhancement of that.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
I understand that. I
Okay.
just see it as a very unsafe.
Well, that's why we lobbied for more than what they originally approved.
But the other thing that is of interest is we have a local town law, okay? And when it was going through the reviews, it says in paragraph 6, provide pedestrian connection to the hamlet, center nearest to the workforce housing. Now, I don't think this was ever taken into consideration, or it was again, not taken into consideration. This is very important. I mean, the law states just that. And if a sidewalk was denied, why the town still gave approval
Well,
to build?
Councilman, you might remember that the town board, to settle a lawsuit that was brought when a developer wanted to go on Joe's Mother's Road, the members of the town board approved the sale of the property to settle the litigation and agreed to a stipulation of settlement, both the federal civil rights lawsuit as well as other discrimination claims. The board unanimously agreed to sell that property, knowing full well where it was located. And so with that as a background, all of those factors are considered, and the connectivity to this site satisfied the planning board.
Right, so alongside, I know all the background history on that, but alongside giving approval to this project, since it was not, our planning board denied the project because they didn't meet our requirements, but it was DOT. And this ties in the fact that this part of the law was not obeyed while going through the procedure. And I understand, what my point is at this point, is if a private individual from this town was supposed to do something like that, I wonder if the approval we're gonna be given without all the Ts being crossed.
Well,
May I say one
Well,
thing?
if I had the
May I say
opportunity,
one thing?
I-
I'm just, I see where everybody's getting very, we are concerned. I mean, I don't think there's anybody crazy with the DOT's thought to have the sidewalk crossing. And absolutely, probably they should never put the sidewalks in until they had the flashing thing done. I don't know why they put the sidewalks in, and I'm not happy with that. But there's a lot of conjecture here, talking about the planning board decision, the planning board did this, but this wasn't looked into. I would suggest that maybe we should sit down with some members of the planning board and the planner who didn't have a chance to respond to you and get some answers, but I don't think this is the venue to do it because we're only getting half the story.
But I think we could also provide the councilman with a list of 4 or 5 projects that have been approved, businesses and things like that, where DOT's approval with respect to their state road doesn't necessarily
Comply
fit
with us.
into everything, but
Let's sit down and
otherwise you would
talk
be
about it.
denying everyone the use of their property along state highways if you...
But let's sit down and we
Denied
can look
me.
into this. I'd rather answer your questions than
Yeah.
just sit here and go back and
Can I
forth.
just say, you denied me use of my property for a safety issue.
I didn't, the chief of police.
okay, yes,
The
but
chief
then-
of police, you applied for a peddler's permit and the chief
Correct.
of police said it was not.
And then I came in front of you, the town board, and you upheld his
Peddler's
decision.
permit is
Tell the
far
chief of
different than a
police.
permanent development, so...
Well, what I'm saying is I was denied.
And we
For
sat down with
peddler
you and
safety
talked
reasons.
about it. We had several round meetings with you and talked about it.
Okay, no, it's just.
So I just
that's
think that we
history.
could offer the same thing
I'm
for this
just saying
project.
that from this standpoint, as a member of this community,
Mm-hmm.
I just find it amazing that, number one, you legally, yes, you're covered. Realistically, there are going to be people walking up and down 376, okay? The demographic that you're dealing with and cars traveling down at 45 miles an hour, if you look and if you went to see what I read, the average time for an older adult rather than a normal person in crossing the road is plus 33%. When you're talking about somebody with a disability, it's 50% plus. You are not having the car stop.
DOT is not happy, but let us.
Yeah, let's just be clear
Okay.
on that, thank you, yes.
It's DOT, and if you, I realize you have a problem with the DOT proposal over here, and I don't think any of us are happy about it. Again, I would rather we sat down and talked about it with the planning board, maybe with our traffic engineer. Maybe we can get a representative here from DOT to explain what their thoughts were. I mean, we can go back and forth
I
on
just see it
this.
as a totally unsafe and unacceptable situation.
I understand that. I think you made that perfectly clear.
Because the DOT is the DOT, you're our town board, we all live here. I mean, you know what, I hope when you don't hear ambulances when you don't want to hear ambulances.
We sure hope not. And
But sir, also with the development of your property on your first proposal, New York State DEC caused a big roadblock.
No, that had nothing to do with,
All
no,
right,
that had
but then-
nothing to do with the DEC.
But there are other state agencies that play roles in all different developments of projects.
Correct, but in the-
Absolutely.
in the one I
But
am
your
talking
permanent
about-
project that you were seeking to get approved, the access to your property was ready to be approved by everybody.
Correct.
It was just the temporary use as a peddler that
That's
was
just
turned down
history.
by the
I
board.
didn't come here.
No,
to-
no, well, we
I
think
didn't
that's
come
probably
here to
a
discuss
valid
that with
point.
you. I came here to discuss with you a situation that me and my wife recognized. We sat there for 5 minutes, and I told her that is probably one of the most dangerous situations dealing with the demographic that you're dealing with in the project there that I've ever seen. I don't know how you could expect, and like I said, you might cover yourself legally, but realistically, those people are going to walk up that road.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I would still like to get together and discuss this with chairman of the, or chairwoman or representative from the planning board. And Mr. Soriano, if you'd like to be there, I think that would be a nice idea.
Good evening, John Curzio, Stormville, tonight. I'd like to speak in my capacity as a Board of Education member for the Carmel Central School District. Mr. Supervisor, I know the last time I was here, you asked if I would come back after the budget process was completed and give a little report to the town board. But first, I'd like to thank again Councilman D'Alessandro for always being available for any question I had, as well as Councilman Franco and D'Alessandro for the project with the veterans. That's something that I brought up at the past several board meetings, and hopefully some students will become engaged in that process and volunteer their time. But as far as the budget, when I ran for my current seat on the Board of Education last year, I made 3 promises: fiscal responsibility, fight Common Core, and stand with students. Throughout my time on the board, including during the current budget process, I have consistently tried to remain true to my promises. Upon research of the previous budgets going back 25 years, I have found that the taxpayers of the Carmel School District have been burdened with a tax levy increase in every single one of those years, and I stopped at 25 years. I didn't go back further. I'm sure that if I went back farther, that trend most likely would have continued. Some of these increases were small, some of them were large, but all were tax levy increases. The Carmel School District has the unenviable distinction of being one of the highest tax districts, not only in the state, but in the entire nation, a distinction that the district and the taxpayers could have done without. The high school taxes and the year after year without let-up concerning increases in the tax levy have forced homeowners to flee the area for more favorable low-tax areas. The high taxes are also a significant hindrance and a deterrent for people looking to purchase a house and settle in the area. The 2017-2018 school budget was adopted by the board at our last meeting in a 6-to-1 vote. I was the only vote against it. My reason for voting against it was that upon examining the budget, I found approximately $450,000 in savings for the taxpayers, a minuscule amount when compared to the entire budget of $123,115,443. It's important to note that not one penny of the proposed savings affected the educational process, nor did it threaten a single job within the school district. These savings ranged from as little as $30 to as much as in excess of $60,000. I find it unfortunate that the board chose not to approve a single penny of these proposed savings. I'm positive that if I had cooperation and assistance rather than resistance, the board could have identified enough savings to, in order for once, deliver a much-needed zero tax levy increase to the hard-pressed taxpayers of the district. The Board of Education's adopted budget will be up for a vote on Tuesday, May 16th, from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Residents within the residents of the Carmel Central School District in the town of East Fishkill can vote on the budget at the Kent Elementary School during that time. I would strongly encourage the voters to reject this budget and send it back to the board. It was in budget-to-budget increase of 1.71%, a tax levy increase of 0.97%, and a house assessed at $350,000 would receive an increase of $103.20. So that is, as far as the budget process, voters within the district will also be receiving a flyer in the mail from the Board of Education with more factual and statistics related to the budget. And I'll be happy to report again soon.
Thank you.
If the budget is voted down, is there a contingency budget?
So the board would have the option of either making changes to the budget and sending it back up for a second vote to the people, sending the same budget back up to the people, or going straight to a contingency budget. If it went down a second time, then we would go to a contingency budget, which pretty much means that we would have to deal with the same tax levy as the previous year, so there would not be an increase in the tax levy. The overall budget would still go up due to an increase in state aid,
Right.
But the tax levy would stay even.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and the budget hearing, if anybody is interested in attending, will be this upcoming Tuesday, May 2nd, at, I don't want to say an incorrect time, but I believe it is 7:30 at Carmel High School, but Just please, before you attend, if you check the website at carmelschools.org, you can verify the time. I don't want to give anybody incorrect information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments on general town issues? Okay, there being none? Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, Bill. We're not getting any younger, are we?
Unbelievable. I've been up here once before, I think. I'm not much on speaking. I've been here 30 years. Raised a couple of children here very safely. And I'm very happy to be here. I love the town. It's a beautiful town. Why would anybody want to change what's running a beautiful town? I don't know, okay? Let the voters decide what's going on. If you're not doing a good job, get rid of you. Vote you out. What is the big deal here? You're taking good people and you're knocking them out of an office when you have term limits. This board, Manny, Mr. Franco,
Me.
me.
Hickman?
I get nervous. Nick and,
Alessandro.
well, good. You're all great people. You're really trying together. Sure, you have troubles, but the bottom line is, it comes out to a very nice town. It's been like that for a while, with a good police department, good police chief, and 3 very nice people here, knowledgeable, very knowledgeable. Why would you want to change anything like that? Unfortunately, I just want to mention something that bothers me. I was always brought up on respect, okay? There's a lot of disrespect that goes on in this building, on meetings, by a certain few people, okay? They should be disgraced. No one gets a chance to point fingers at our elected people. No one screams and yells in this microphone at our people, or I think you were yelled at tonight. It doesn't run that way. We talk like humans. We don't spend an hour up here talking about some crazy thing so that the town people have to go home at 11 o'clock at night, okay? Manny, remember when you told me it's good to come to town meetings? Remember that day? I don't want to come. I don't want to come because you got a certain few people that think they're big stuff, and they come in here and they say what they want to say, and people are out there shutting the TV off just when they come on, okay? We do not get, I'm telling you, there's a lot of people. And about that fishy statement, I come here once in a while, and it's not fishy that I showed up tonight, okay? Good night.
Thank you very much. Just one more. If you would make it quick, I appreciate that. We have to wrap up. I would like to wrap up.
I would like to say I am for term limits. Even more so than that, I am against the caucus. All right? You said that it was 300 people, which you considered a fair representation of the town of 30,000, to see who was going to put on the ballot. In operating my social site, what I found is most people are apathetic. They will go on and they will vote.
It's their vote, but it is their right to vote how they wish to vote.
It is their
And you
right.
cannot tell them that they have to be involved if they...
Correct.
So.
In this past election, I was personally invited to the caucus. That's what opened my eyes, that I was solicited for a signature, and I got a call and said, you have to be there that day at that time.
It's a process.
Okay, and
Yep.
at 6 o'clock, those doors were shut, and as far as I know, if there was 250 people there, 220 of them were invited, and nobody else knew about it.
It's
So what it did
publicly,
is it
it's publicized. So anyway,
Right.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, that's it for general town issues. The one thing I do have to mention, and we got the other day, and this has got to do with the May 20th vote. You know, we're working on these grants. We've gotten the grant for the stormwater filter system. And we've been working on getting the $128,000 from Sue Serino's office. And, you know, everybody says, oh, get a grant. Well, believe me, getting a grant is no easy thing. And they're always requesting more information. So we're almost to the end, and they actually, the state that's giving us the grant, they're proposing to give us the grant for the removing lily pads, $128,000. I just got this the other day discussing with the town attorney. They said, we have one more thing for you to supply before we send it to council. This was the email. I am in the process of conducting a desk audit with respect to the above grant file. In order for your grant to move forward to council's final review, please provide me with a letter on the Town of East Fishkill's letterhead from the town attorney stating that the grantee owns the site where the project is located. A PDF copy of the letter will suffice. So the little issue that we have, and we're going to have to write a letter to council in New York State just stating that there's going to be a vote on May 20th, and that after that, we're really not sure if it's going to transfer to the town or it's going to go back to the homeowners. We're going to send her a letter and tell her this is what is transpiring, and then we'll get back to them after the 20th of May. Hopefully, this doesn't impact our grant. Unfortunately, looking at the other grant, there may be an impact on that too. So we'll see. I was quite surprised to get this request, but we're going to send them a letter notifying them of the vote and the possibility that the property may in fact not be the town of East Fishkill. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully, we'll clear this hurdle. With that, anybody else have any comments? There being none, do I have a motion to adjourn the?
Wait, I have
I'm
a
sorry.
comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nick.
I'd like to mention again on July 29th, it's a Saturday, that we're going to be having a Red Wing all-inclusive day at the beach for people of all different needs. We're still in need of volunteers to help us with the park, painting, maintenance work, anything. If you have high schoolers that want some public service hours, we've been more than happy to accommodate you and give you a certificate saying that you did the work. And again, that's Saturday, July 29th. And, you know, as per all the rhetoric that's going on the last few weeks, I'd just like to say that we're here to do the work of the town. I don't like to get distracted on hearing different static and other things about, it's kind of distracting us from what the job we should be doing. That's my own personal opinion. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, and God bless you, but we're here for one thing, to make sure the town is going to run properly. We should worry about issues like business development, worry about our seniors, worry about our taxes. And, you know, at the end of the day, life isn't that difficult. We make it as difficult as we think. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. I want to thank the people that came out for cleanup day at the Hillside Lake community. The lady that organized it, I want to thank her personally. She was happy because there were quite a few people that came out and helped. I want to thank the highway superintendent. He was there the morning waiting, and he gave some equipment out to help the cleanup, gave some bags, gloves. So thank you for that. And it was really a good thing. We did get as much as possible, including some transmissions that they've been sitting there for a long time. But it was a good thing. So thank you to that community, and thank you to the highway superintendent.
Councilman Franco?
Just quickly, May 25th meeting that we have that night, we're going to have the American Legion here, and we're going to be presenting the first batch of our hometown hero banners for Memorial Day. So we'll get them up for that Memorial Day weekend, but before, we'll have the students in, they'll do a little report on each of the past veterans.
Very good. Thank you very much.
John,
Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, yes, ma'am?
why does the vote to dissolve the Park District have anything to do with ownership?
Because after the vote to dissolve the district, then all the assets of the district have to be discharged. So I don't know
You
where they're
bought
going to
it?
go. They might go to the town, they might go back to the homeowners. There may be a vote in the future, a general town vote. So this kind of leaves us a little bit out there.
Well, if you mail it tomorrow, you're still the owner.
Well, I wouldn't agree with that. I think there's a certain amount of, we know there's going to be a vote, we know there's a chance, so we have to see what happens.
Is that why we hold everything until after the November vote? We don't make any decisions until after the November vote? I'm just speaking in
Yeah,
general.
no, I know. We were served with a petition. The petition said we're going to, we would like to dissolve the, the proposal to
Correct.
dissolve the Park District. After that, there has 6 months to be put together a plan, what to do with the with the assets. So I
What
believe-
happened to the original plan that the town put forward that put us in this position in the first place? The town neglected to follow forward on that plan.
You're talking
Now
about...
we're in this position that we're in now, where we have to dissolve.
But I can't speak for what happened in the past, 1991. You voted for the town to take it over.
There is one member who has been here ever since,
Okay.
and he has been part of this for the whole 20, 25 years, whatever the heck number we're up to.
Understood.
And he is a vote, and there were numerous other people on the board at the same time.
Understood.
You people are all new in the past few years.
Yeah.
Not you, John, you've
No,
been
I've
here
been
for
trying
10.
we've been working on this for a while. So
And
we'll see
the-
what happens, but we have to respond to this letter from New York State Council.
So send it out tomorrow.
Excuse me?
I said, mail it tomorrow.
We'll consider that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adjourn the town board meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Next workshop is May 11th, and the next voting meeting is May 25th.